double L. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, who are paving your way, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy excellence. I, of course, am your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself. And we are wrapping up the bulk of what has been a pretty exciting week 2. Sure. We've actually got one game still going on, Seahawks and Titans. Last I pulled away from the TV, had just gone into overtime on the back of a pretty amazing performance by a guy we're going to talk about shortly. How you doing, Wolf?
Oh, it's a much better week 2 than it's been a week 1. That's for sure. Mike Evans making that a whole lot better for me. Still a lot of action to go. Need Aaron Rodgers to grow his spine on Monday night, but loving the action so far. Wild day, in pretty good shape in 4 out of 5 leagues. So loving that. How about you, Nat? What are you looking at?
The Dynasty Roto Street Journal League, that came down to earth. I'm about where I expected. I think I'm probably going to lose by 30 or 40. But my hometown league, I absolutely lit up the guy I'm playing and just destroyed him. And that was even with some real dud performances in my lineup. I had Antonio Brown, who I really believed in and did absolutely nothing. And Tyler Higbee did not do me any favors. But, man, I had some guys blow up. Yeah.
Well, why don't we get into some of those blow-ups, some of those studs? As always, we recap all the action here. We're getting to the studs of the week, some important stat lines, your waiver wire guys to look for early on, and then your injuries. I'll, of course, have a more deep, in-depth risers, fallers tomorrow, more in-depth waiver wires on Tuesday. But this is the rapid reaction where we get you going, get the juices flowing on this excellent Sunday.
All right, we're going to start out Stud of the Week nominations. Christian McCaffrey, I think I'm just going to make it a tradition that we start with him no matter what, because we're going to be able to bank on, 20, 25, 27-point game. Another pretty unspectacular 25-point PPR day, 72 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 5 catches for 65 yards. Ho-hum, 25 yards. I mean, I think there's one running back who outscored him, and that's the guy we're going to talk about later.
And he could have had two more touchdowns. Like, he got stuffed at the one just a few times. So this is his floor, 25-point floor. It's unbelievable. Cooper Kupp, though, another stud of the week nomination, 9 catches, 163 and 2 TDs. Holy crap, you're right. This guy is Stafford's favorite, and it does count for a lot right now. That rapport is very real. Them getting lunch together, all the stories that you were like, it's true. It made a big difference. This guy is clearly playing ahead of Robert Woods and definitely one of the best receivers, top probably 7 receiver moving forward in fantasy.
I think minimum. I really do. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to look at the list, but man, there's not that many guys I'd rather have than him right now in fantasy.
Unbelievable.
Kyler Murray. We're used to seeing this guy. He was our stud of the week last week. He's not going to be this week, but man, I mean, it's not for any lack of effort. 400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Unbelievable effort. Yeah, I mean, the guy every single week, he's going to be a cheat code, as is probably Tom Brady. I think that team is going to be going for records. 5 touchdowns from Tom Brady, the ageless wonder. Just gets it done week in, week out. What an aerial show. I'm telling you, he knows he's only going to have 1 to 2 of these 18-game seasons, 17 games for the regular, for what they're playing. He's going to put up records. He's going for records. He wants to leave his legacy, and I absolutely love it.
And last but not least, because we don't know what this guy's stat line is actually going to end at. It might end here. It might not. Derrick Henry, who at halftime in our shared Google Doc I had written down at halftime, he was in duds of the week with a question mark, and I did right next to him. Well, there is another half to go. I think he had like 9 yards at halftime. Anyway, when we started this thing, he had 161 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's my guy.
He might not be looking great, but he is just churning down defenses until he pulverizes them into dust. My brother was like, he looks like a blob this year. Is he going to be the biggest bust? Well, let's rethink that one, Alboy. Not quite the blob right now. Derrick Henry, damn. I think he's got to be the winner, and he might even add to his totals as we're going here. I think the clear winner of Stud of the Week right now is Derrick Henry, especially after last week, too, like rebounding this way. Big stuff, big time.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our duds of the week.
Absolutely. Before we do, thumbs up.
Give us a like.
Help us get out to more people. And, of course, if you have questions, one guy we might get some questions on, and I know we want to cover all the news. There's really only one story to make sure we cover, and that's Marquise Brown is active for week 2 against the Chiefs. I think you get it back in lineups if you're waiting out for him at this point. 6 catches, 69 yards, and a TD. They're going to need points. They're going to need this guy to do some damage. So I like Marquise Brown in my lineups. If you've been waiting him out this far, go for that. Get him in there. Roll the dice.
All right, let's talk some duds. Laviska Shenault. Now, this was the guy when you were doing your rankings and we did our wide receiver show, this was the guy that I told you I had the most beef with you having as high as you did. And you did acknowledge when I said that he was a little high and you adjusted. I understand the hype, and at the same time, I didn't understand the hype. I just don't believe in Jacksonville in any way. As good of a talent as this guy is, his line for the day was 2 catches for -3 yards.
Yeah, and clearly outshined by Marvin Jones. Like, it was thought that Laviska was going to take over that Percy Harvin hybrid role, and maybe he is playing that role, but it's certainly not the overwhelming target magnet it used to be at college with Percy Harvin, with Curtis Samuel. That just doesn't work in this offense right now at the NFL level. And so it's fortunate that he's come to this. But yeah, Laviska Shenault, as versatile as he is, as big body as he is, just doesn't have the speed to thrive in this offense, and he hasn't gone too far because
you got a panic meter reading for him?
I would put him at like a nice 7 in terms of ability, right? Like if injuries around him happen, but there's just going to be such an up and down attack, and I don't believe in the Jags at all, like you said. So I'd put it like a 7, 8. Like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to trust this guy enough to put him in my lineup.
Here's a guy that you threw on the list, George Kittle. Now, I heard nothing in the preseason. I was listening to Sal Palantonio break down the game, and he was just basically like, where they're going to get their yards is from Kittle because the Eagles are going to be willing to give up those across the middle routes. So I was like, oh, man, I wish I had Kittle, but I don't. But it didn't really happen, huh?
Nope. 4 catches, 17 yards. Just a blown third-round pick, it's seeming like at this point. Awful. It's going to be inconsistent. They're so run-dominant, even without any of their starting running backs at this point. Like, it's just a ground-centric attack, and they don't have the aerial volume to sustain multiple weapons. And this is without – what's scary about Kittle is Ayuk's not even a thing yet. Ayuk's not doing anything right now, and Kittle still isn't thriving. It's all Deebo Samuel. We're going to talk about him in important stat lines. But, man, this is scary. This is absolutely scary for George Kittle. Another big dud I saw, both Cowboys, Dak Prescott, 237 yards and a pick in a pure shootout narrative. It should have been back-and-forth points, especially after last Thursday. Very disappointing to see him dialed back, 237 again. Nothing special. And then power of that, Amari Cooper, 3 for 24, that clear-cut alpha, the guy that we were all overlooking, Devontae Adams and Mike McCarthy's offense just goes and disappears. So that's very concerning. I thought this offense was just going to be a juggernaut week in and week out. Very concerning performance from those two Cowboys.
And Antonio Brown, a guy that in all the flex questions I asked beforehand, I asked you, I remember I asked you and CJ on your show, T. Higgins or Mike Williams. You said Higgins, he said Williams. I went with Williams. They both had good games. Williams had a slightly better game, but I didn't even bring up Brown, who was also one of those guys. I was like, I'm definitely putting him in. I mean, right. I mean, Higgins over Brown would have been a great choice. Brown had 1 catch for 17 yards. Definitely worthy of being on the dead list. Yeah,
100%. Well worth it. But I think the winner, especially relative to expectations, Alvin Kamara, 8 carries, 5 yards, 4 catches, 25, so a 30-yard day for this guy on only 12 touches. This was the number 1 running back in fantasy last year. What has happened? It's terrifying performance. And Taysom Hill started to mix in a little bit more and more, and Jameis Winston also just had a very bad day. We'll talk about his bad performance in a little bit. That's all very concerning for Kamara moving forward. It's like no longer a clear-cut top 5 back by any means. You have to adjust for that. Very scary performance, in my opinion. And he's probably the dud of the week.
Clear winner, dud of the week. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. Let's get into some stats. Let's just go through them. And whether they're good, they're bad, we'll read the stat line, we react, and we just move through them. You ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead. Start us off.
I'll start with Corey Davis. We'll start with the bad. Let's get that out of the way. Two catches, 8 yards, a week after being an alpha, the target hog, everybody ripping me to shreds because I said Elijah Moore might be able to take him over. Well, here's your Corey Davis. Is this your king? Is this who you want? 2 for fucking 8 yards? Good job, guys. Pumped for you.
Jameis Winston, fresh off his 5-touchdown day last week. He got right around the same number of yards, except this time he didn't get any touchdowns. And he had 2 picks, 11 out of 22 for 111 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, including one I saw him just throw up. It was a vintage Jameis interception. So anyway, that was pretty terrible. It was a bad game all around. They had 128 yards of total offense.
The lowest in the Sean Payton era, the lowest since 1996. Just abysmal performance. And that you got to imagine Taysom Hill's number could get called upon soon. Not to be outdone, Zach Wilson, a few more yards, 210, also scoreless, 4 interceptions. Real bad. Looked like he had like the potential to blow up this year. Not blow up. I guess that's but like as a late round QB might have some upside, that live arm, but 2 up and down, 2 nerve wracking. They go to Denver next week. Like if you were stashing him to see, no need anymore. No need to see him anymore. Let's get something positive, Nat. Give me something good.
Deebo Samuel, 6 of 8 targets for 93 yards. I mean, I feel like it's, there's been better stat lines than this. I feel like the significant thing here is that we thought this was like, oh, would you rather have Brandon Ayuk or would you rather have Deebo Samuel?
And Kittle before both, right? Always, no matter what.
We know the answer to that question. And I don't know if we're bringing up Ayuk later, but I'm just going to jump the shark and do it anyway. He had 0 catches on 0 targets last week.
Oh, I remember.
Well, 1 catch for 6 yards this week.
Oh, God. So, hey, on the board. He's here. He's arrived to the season.
Right.
No, but
this was supposed to be a positive stat thing, and I'm talking about Deebo, and he's the clear guy.
Absolutely. 8 targets. Again, over Kittle, over Ayuk. And what's crazy about the last thing to add about him is it's air yards, too. It's not just behind the line of scrimmage, go run after the catch. He's, I think, at like about 70% of the team's total air yards right now. So he's actually going deep far more. Probably a low-end receiver 1 at this point, as long as he's healthy. That's always the concern with him. But looking like a potential wide receiver 1 for the season. I thought James White was a notable stat performance. And we said this. He was my running back of the week, a Hail Mary potential. Loved it. I was much higher on him. Because I thought Harris was going to be bad, we'll talk about him in a sec. But still, White, 5 carries, 20 yards, a TD. Also gets in on the 6 catches, 45 yards in the air. I think the touchdowns, those are going to come not with much regularity, but the receiving involvement, the sure-handedness, the dependable guy. He was in there, I'd say, for over half the snaps. I can't wait to see those snap totals. But very nice performance. 12 catches on 13 targets through 2 games on a team that's running more plays than they did last year. Really like what I see from James White, a usable flex moving forward.
Cortland Sutton, 9 catches, 159 yards. Worth noting that while Judy was in the game before the injury last week, Sutton had done very little, was not lighting the world on fire. But now that he seems to be the guy by default, he really seems to be the guy. And what a great stat line, huh?
Absolutely. Clear alpha, showed he could do it all. And most importantly, a lot of people speculating he wasn't going to have good chemistry with Teddy Bridgewater. Well, turns out he could be a go-to guy for Teddy Bridgewater. Judy was probably going to be the guy, but it's clear Sutton has now inherited that role, at least for as long as Judy's out. And I have a hard time imagining Judy just steps right in and takes the throne of a guy putting up these types of stats. Amazing stuff. Another receiver reemerging in his alpha nature. Mike Evans, 9 targets, 5 catches. We talked about Antonio Brown as a dud of the week. Well, Mike Evans could have threatened for start of the week. Only 75 yards, but 2 scores, looking like a beast at the goal line. That's how Brady it's unstoppable. It reminds you of Randy Moss when he was there. They're just a big body that you can't really guard with Brady's pinpoint accuracy. Love this game for Mike Evans.
Another big body, big receiver, got named Mike, actually. Mike Williams with another big game. 7 catches for 91 yards. He was targeted a lot and also had a touchdown. He had 2 big catches get called back because of penalties on other guys. He is there definitely looking for him, or Herbert is definitely looking for him down the field in big situations. And, I mean, he's such a big target.
Absolutely. We talked about that. The X receiver in the Lombardi role, we've now seen it for 2 games. I think we can just say this is a thing. It's really true. It was not a fluke week 1. And that's important. I mean, he has top, dare I say, 15 receiver upside, at least top 20 upside moving forward. Big blow-up performance here from Michael Pittman, seeing 12 targets, an absolute alpha target hog role. Paris Campbell was out. I don't think that was what influenced this. And what was most notable about this, 8 catches, 123 yards, monster day, but also against the Rams, a defense that Allen Robinson couldn't get open against. This guy was getting open at will, and Wentz was locked into him. Now, we don't know what Wentz's health is. We're going to get to the injuries a little bit later. He did get crumbled at one point. But ultimately, very, very encouraging for Pittman, who showed I can be your number 1. I can be the clear hog in this offense.
Brandon Cooks targeted 14 times, caught 9 of them, 78 yards, and a touchdown in Houston's Week 2 loss to Cleveland. I mean, they didn't look terrible in this loss, and Cooks is a real weapon.
He really is. And it's what you just said. Houston doesn't look bad. They look bad enough that they're going to have to throw. They're going to have to continue to put up stats. But Cooks is the only guy they have. And he just continues to get it done. It does not matter. He is QB-proof. We were worried that he's only had the beautiful QB treatment his whole career. Well, now he's getting it done with Tyrod Taylor. And he's getting it done at a very high level. The guy is very legit. He's believable. And Marvin Jones, we talk about Visca going down, but this guy, 2 weeks in a row, the clear number 1 target in all the scramble situations, the guy that Trevor Lawrence is locking into and the pockets breaking down, 11 targets, really only turned it into 55 yards and a touchdown and 6 catches. So not the most efficient performance, but just more so the way that Trevor Lawrence locks in on this guy when he's scrambling and under pressure.
Deontay Johnson caught 9 balls after being targeted 12 times, 105 yards in the Steelers' Week 2 loss to the Raiders. However, he appeared to be maybe kind of badly injured on like a meaningless last-second play. They were down 2 scores, and he got hit out of bounds or whatever, and so he kind of limped off the field at the end. You know, if he's healthy, we've said it, and now you've seen it. The production is there. He had a very, very solid fantasy game, maybe better than solid. I don't know if he's going to be around next week. We'll find out.
And that's important, too, for the other 2 guys, Juju Smith-Schuster and Claypool. Their value could see a huge boost with his target magnet. He's always – every single game he's made it through, he's seen at least 10 targets. The guy has been a monster these past 2 years. And Darnell Mooney showing a lot of short area bursts. We talked to those beat writers, Kevin Fishbane, saying his route tree's expanded. Well, 6 of 8 targets, 66 yards. So it wasn't that classic Mooney getting deep, going for a 50-yard bomb, which is still well within his repertoire, but cool, very interesting, very nice to see a well-balanced all-around game. I liked what I saw from Darnell Mooney moving forward, especially with Fields potentially taking over from here. Like Mooney a lot.
All right. I don't feel like this guy even belongs on this great stat line list, but Damian Harris had 16 rushes for 62 yards and a touchdown. Good game. I mean, they're playing the Jets, but whatever. And
I think that the reason I put him on here, why it's an important stat line, is the team didn't just go away from him. We were a little bit worried.
Okay.
After the fumble, are they going to turn away from Damian Harris? But he had that 1 touchdown, too, that 26-yarder. That was just a monstrous, I'm a man, you guys are boys.
Yeah.
Out into the end zone. It's just good to see the team stay committed to him, even though it was not a monster performance.
That's fair. Let's go to the fallers and the panic meter. We're trying to do this efficiently, folks, because we got a late start. So this is going to be like the efficient East German version of the fantasy fullback dive. All right. The fallers panic meter. Let's talk about the Philadelphia receivers. And specifically, I'm talking about Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith. I have a good buddy of mine who elected to start Jalen Reagor over Cortland Sutton this week.
Who did that?
Right. Yeah, I told him he was an idiot.
Yeah.
Reagor and Smith combined for 4 catches for 21 yards. Wow,
just horrendous. And it shows you like a pretty frightening floor for this Eagles aerial attack. That's what happened with Jalen Hurts, who he's not on the fallers list himself because his rushing upside is just so big. He still put up 21 and an abysmal effort. That's why a Konami code quarterback is so important. But the receivers, very scary to see these types of bottom out floors. Saquon Barkley, only 57 yards rushing. I'm actually hammering buy low right now. 84% of snaps, looking like he had some good bursts in that game. I know the production wasn't that big there, but I loved everything I saw in terms of snaps, in terms of what he looked like. You get the Falcons coming up this week, big rebound spot. I'd be hammering the buy low on Saquon.
So your panic meter on him is like a 2.
Oh, yeah, I'm not panicked at all. In fact, I'm encouraged.
Okay.
On the receivers, though, is pretty high for those Phillies. Yeah, if we're tossing out a panic meter, I'd give that like a 6.5. I don't think it'll happen every week, but it's scary to know that floor exists.
All right. Well, Marquez Callaway had 2 catches for 8 yards.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be real with you. My panic meter is pretty high.
It should be. He looked like the clear alpha. All the reports were the clear alpha in camp, but now he doesn't have the Jair Alexander excuse. I don't know that the Panthers have a shutdown corner that was running with him, but at this point, Winston looked bad, and his whether he's the number 1 or not, I don't really care. This offense is going to be this bad. He's cut bait. He's potentially cuttable at this point.
But look, they passed this season. They've passed for like 250 yards.
That's
total.
Right.
This season.
Right.
There's guys that might have approached. I mean, Kyler Murray may have had that in a half somewhere along the way. Right. So anyway, yeah, my panic meter's high, and I might be dropping him actually.
I think especially in a shorter league bench, there's no need that you have to hang on to Callaway. He might have some blowups here and there, but especially when Mike Thomas comes back too, he's not the guy. He's not the alpha, and it looked like he could have been. He's not. We can accept that. Brandon Ayuk also not an alpha. 1 catch for 6 yards.
He's a beta.
This came after Shanahan said, he would have been the clear guy. He hurt his hamstring. People starting to get, okay, well, I'll watch him come back this week, right? He'll have a good role. Nope. 1 catch, 6 yards, still in a timeshare, still not looking very, very normal. He's probably the biggest single faller of the 2021 season so far. Not probably. He is.
Yeah. Allen Robinson was targeted 4 times. He caught 2 of them, 24 yards. He did get a touchdown, but I mean, whatever. I saw a stat before. Or not a stat, but a graphic before this week's games where it showed his usage, like the routes that they had him run in week 1. I mean, this is a legit stud receiver here. Yeah. It was amazing the routes he was running. He was running nothing, like just nothing.
No balls,
nothing.
Nothing. Curls.
Right.
like just all 5 yards. Pathetic. They're so handicapped by Andy Dalton, but it looks like they might finally turn those wheels, the keys over. So I'm not my panic meter. I'm actually encouraged leaving this game by Allen Robinson because they're likely to turn it over to Justin Fields. As bad as this is, I think it is just though when you juxtapose it with like Terry McLaurin, who went 10 for like 14, 110 to TD when they were going in the same price range. I often was going A-Rob. Clear mistake. It was clear you should have gone McLaurin at that point.
Yep.
Our bad. Definitely a wrong third-round pick there. But Jacoby Myers was one of my favorite sleepers and like a nice, like okay, decent floor, 4 catches, 38 yards, but not the ceiling that I think we envisioned from this Patriots slot. They're just not as good as Mac is like a comfortable quarterback. It's not an explosive fantasy offense. It's not something you really need receiving pieces out of ever.
All right, James Robinson, 11 rushes, 47 yards, 3 targets for 17. What a gross stat line.
Such a gross stat line, but the only reason I put this on here, because it's not like enough to be like, oh, this was so bad, he was useless. They're pretty close to it. He did see 14 touches to 2 for Hyde. Remember last week Hyde out-touched him, and that was just like, what the fuck is this going to actually continue to happen? It was good to see Robinson at least take the driver's seat, but this also shows, does it really matter if he's in the driver's seat? I don't know. Probably not. And one more, this is like right in the middle of the road that I put down. If there's any other stats, Nat, that you want to throw
No,
out
it's
there,
okay.
please let me know. But I put Woods on here. 5 of 9 targets, 64 yards, 2 carries, 6 yards, like an okay stat line. But why I put this on here is he is by far the second fiddle in this offense. Often was drafted ahead of Kupp, and in fact, he was almost exclusively drafted ahead of Kupp. But Kupp's played 100% of the snaps through all these games. I think he might have taken one off this game. Kupp, whereas Woods has been like a 70% snap player. He's coming out more often with more regularity. That's pretty concerning. That's I not hitting a panic meter, but I think we're looking at like instead of it being like they're both high-end number 2s, we got a number 1 clear-cut alpha in Kupp and a 3 with Robin. Yeah. They're not in the middle together.
I agree with that assessment, so I understand why you had him. I mean, he's a good player. Like, don't get me wrong. He's just not the guy. He's not the alpha in this group right now.
Not at all.
All right, let's get into some waivers really quick because, like we said, we're dealing with a limited time here. We want to try to be off by 8:20 so you guys can watch Sunday Night Football, which is, by the way, my fantasy games are decided. They're over.
Nice.
So I just get to watch the game. It is a great game, too.
That's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it is a good feeling. I'm
excited for it, for sure. Well, let's hit this early waiver wire. One of them being a name I shouted out already this week, Cordarrelle Patterson, only 13% rostered. The guy puts up 21 fantasy points. In fact, Matt, he was our Hail Mary running back player of the week.
He was.
And you guys tuned in on Thursday. I said no Kenyon Drake, no Peyton Barber. Go for Cordarrelle Patterson. Roll the dice on this guy. And what does he do? Scores through the air, scores on the ground. He was up to 21 fantasy points the last time I checked. And as much as I want to be a braggart and say, I called this because I did. I tweeted about it. I got a lot of people being like, you're an idiot. This guy wasn't good 5 years ago. He's not good now. Blah, 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 coming at me. I get it. I want a victory lap, but I also cut him this morning for Christian Kirk, so that kind of hurt too. But still, very, very pumped I saw it coming. Now I'm just having to blow my load to go get this guy. I'd spend probably $25, $30 in the tab to go get him. This next one I think is even bigger. Rondale Moore, Nat.
7 targets.
Yeah.
7 receptions. You like those numbers. 114 yards and a touchdown, and he's only owned in a third of leagues.
I know we led off with Patterson. I wanted to lead off with a guy that's more widely available. But if Rondale Moore is available in your league, this is the guy you blow your load to go get. You pay 70 of your fab, you maybe even more. You want to go get this guy. He is a clear playmaker that is going to have a designed weekly role. It's clear. They're funneling him looks, and this is what he does with them. It looks like he's only getting more comfortable by the touch. I'm so excited for Rondale Moore. I wish I owned him more often. What a beautiful play he's going to be. Over Kirk, over A.J. Green. He's the number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Behind only Hopkins. Henry Ruggs, another brilliant drop by me this week. 5 catches on 7 targets, 113 in the TD. I'm cautiously optimistic, but very cautiously optimistic. I don't know that I believe in this quite yet. It was a very good all-around game, including a nice touchdown bomb. What I do believe in is Derek Carr, 26. You were texting me during the game, and you've always loved Derek Carr, and he's only 26%.
That's a stretch, but yeah, I mean,
you're MVP, you're king.
That one year, I stand by it.
And he went for 4. So the last 2 games, 435 and 2, and then against a team that Josh Allen couldn't get anything against the Steelers, 382 and 2. He's leading the league in passing yards right now, and it doesn't really feel fluky. He's making really good throws.
Some of these, the game last week, he like engineered like legit game-tying, game-winning drives where he had to make like 3 throws in a row or else the game was over, and he made them.
He delivered. Right. And his weapons aren't great, but he's still slinging it.
Right. Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is a guy that I liked and maybe even could have picked up and didn't, and I hate myself for it. He's 22% owned. He only caught 3 balls on 4 targets, 37 yards and a touchdown, but I really, really like him for whatever. I think he's good. I believe in him.
They love him too, man. And last year, contested catch rate was, I think, #1 in Pro Football Focus. Unbelievable. And now he gets the Jets coming up this week. Awful defense, followed by Baltimore, who seems scary on paper, but after losing Mark Peter, they're terrible. Their secondary is awful at this point. So good matchups. While Judy's out here, he's going to have a clear role. Like Sutton, as we discussed earlier, the clear alpha, but Patrick, a very, very good number 2.
Yep.
A excellent number 2. Madison was just down here. Like Cook, we'll talk about injuries. It didn't look like anything ultimately big happened, but there was multiple scares throughout this game where you're like, oh God, Cook's done. Season's over for him. And he got back in. He got there. But when you see that, then you always rush and look, is Madison on my waiver wire? And he's out there in 32, only 32% owned right now. So just a reminder of his fragility, a guy that should probably be rostered everywhere after seeing some of these warning signs.
Last but not least, Kenneth Gainwell, 36% owned. We were talking about him last week. 6 rushes for 14 yards in the Eagles' Week 2 loss to the Niners. He added 2 catches for 18 yards. He also had a 2-point conversion. Boston Scott did not see a touch for the second straight game, so that's why Gainwell still holds this appeal. He's not a super flashy pickup, but he's not a bad guy to roster if you got the room.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I'm excited to see the comments. Did the game end yet? Do we have a winner?
Yeah, the Titans won by a field goal.
Oh, wow. I wish it was a little more exciting than that. Well, let's wrap up the injuries. We got 30 comments and questions to get to before kickoff, so we'll have to rip through those pretty quickly. We already touched upon Deontay Johnson shaken up on the last play of the game. Just devastating to see. You hope he's okay because he gets shaken up a lot and then ends up coming back. You hope it was one of those, but it didn't look good. He had to get assisted coming off. There hasn't been any word quite yet, unless we missed it. So feel free to comment in if we might have missed that. But it didn't look good, and it just seemed like a blown, stupid, why were you doing this? Why was he on the field type of play. And in his wake, Juju and Claypool would obviously get bumps, and maybe James Washington. Najee Harris will probably get a little bit more involved too if Johnson's target vacuum is to miss time.
Roethlisberger made a couple terrible throws in that game, by the way.
Did not look good.
Darrell Henderson's ribs, that's an issue. And it could be a positive issue for Sony Michel owners. We'll see. Sony Michel had 10 rushes for 46 yards, but he had nothing going on at all before Henderson exited the game with an injury to his ribs. So he replaced Henderson, did pretty well. He had like 4.5 yards a carry once he was in there. Although caution, the Bucs are the week 3 opponent of the Rams, so I don't know how great the rushing game is going to be no matter what. But keep an eye on that. Henderson's looked okay.
Henderson looked really good before going down. I mean, 13 carries, 53 and a TD, and as you said, staved off. Michel didn't touch the field until he got hurt. But this was always the rub. This is why I wanted to hate cut Michel last week, and I'm glad I didn't because Henderson's very injury prone, and here it is already in week 2. He's going to miss some time, and Michel looked great. He really did. There's no way to sugarcoat it. I know I'm a biased owner, but he was ripping 5 yards every time he touched it, making quick cuts, looking more nimble than he's looked in years with the Pats. So really good to see that. We also saw Tua leave the game, did not return, was replaced by Jacoby Brissett. I don't think there's been any final word of what happened or if he's going to return. But it was clear. They put up 0 points. Buffalo's defense, meanwhile, was the fantasy defense of the week. So if this is going to linger, not that Tua was amazing, but he at least kept this offense humming, kept it moving, put some points on the board. If it's going to be Brissett moving forward, whoever's facing Miami, stream that defense week in and week out.
Jarvis Landry had an MRI. He's going to have an MRI on Monday. He had an MCL injury. He had a terrible game. I think he had 1 catch for 9 yards. Unclear to me if that was an early in the game injury or if he was hampered by it or what, but we'll find out more Monday or Tuesday what's going on with Landry.
Yep, and I don't know what happened with Gage. We don't, Dalvin Cook, I tossed him on here because he kept getting in and out, and it was just a reminder of his scariness. But 49ers running back, it seemed like it could have been a nightmare day for Elijah Mitchell. At some point, he even got dinged up. But then Hasty went down with an ankle injury after it looked like he might take over. And then Trey Sermon came in. He left 1 carry, got drilled, fumbled the ball, and left with a head injury. And Mitchell was back in. So Mitchell might just end up being the de facto guy, yet again because of injuries around him. And that's big news for his value moving forward.
All right, Carson Wentz left the game. He did not return. Don't know when he's coming back. Really don't have any more information about it than that, but just wanted to mention it.
Absolutely. And let's now get on in to your
Giuseppe wants to know if there's no props for tonight.
Oh, I don't know. Did CJ not put them up? CJ, get those props up if you're tuned in. Get them up. He's been money. He's been the money man so far.
I know. He's mentioning that. Fraser McDonald, 21 points behind with Mahomes, Adams, and A.J. Brown overtime left to play. He has Packers D. Surely to fucking goodness, I'm going 2-0.
You better. If you don't win that one with Mahomes and Adams down 21, then the fantasy gods will hate you forever.
Craig Sarno, I know Truth must be smiling ear to ear seeing Barber get some burn today. Barber had a pretty Barber-ish day. I want to say like 12 carries for 30 yards, something like that.
Yeah, it's Barber at his fullest, and Nat was so excited and horny.
I was, but it was an unrelated issue.
Yes.
Mitch Chavez, let's get it. Murray again, and damn, Henry, we see you. We do see you.
What an absolute monster he is.
Seamus, hello, handsome gents. Hey, Seamus. Guess who's getting a double win this week? The dance teacher, simply Seamus. All thanks to the Roto. You guys never, and by never, 95% of the time, steal me wrong. Kupp, marry me now. Okay.
Seamus sent me some pretty graphic texts about all the things he likes about Cooper Kupp and all the things he wishes could happen with Cooper Kupp. And I appreciate it, Seamus. Very, very fun.
And then a slightly more reserved Cooper Kupp praise. Cooper Kupp with the fire symbol comes next. Cameron Q. Geckel riding the high of Henry, Lockett, and Evans. What a day. I still got Lamar and CH to play, and I'm up 29. You're doing all right.
That's just nice. Just burying your opponent like that. And by the way, guys, quick thumbs up if you haven't already. Help us get out to more people, whether you're catching the replay, whether you're here live with us. It means the world.
Craig Sarno's up 35. My opponent has Aaron Jones, Hawkinson, and Butker left. What do you think? I wouldn't be comfortable.
No, that's 12 each from those guys. I mean, Aaron Jones might put up 35 himself against Detroit. I'm sorry, Craig. If I would take your opponent's position if I had the choice between your team or not. Not a guarantee, not like you're toast. But I would put this at like 65 your opponent, 35 you.
Agree with that. Denny Jennings, just here to say what's up. I'm putting my drunk ass, I'm going to assume that says to bed, FU 49er era.
Yeah, he was at the game today. He actually went to the Eagles game. Sounded like he was banged up this morning. He's still here, though. That's what I love.
What's up, Denny?
I love him, man.
Fraser, do you think Kamara has serious buy low value? I don't know if I'd want him. It depends how low I could get him.
I would almost argue this is one where you like sell perceivedly high. It's still Kamara, so like he has his name value. Whether Taysom Hill takes over or whether Winston just sucks, I don't know. I don't know that this Alvin rebounds. I can't sit here and be like, yes. Is his value low right now? It is. Do I want to buy it right now? I don't think so.
It's low for a reason.
Right. Exactly. Geckel, you're probably going to lose. Yeah, you're giving it trade to you, Craig Sarno. I get it.
William wants to know, ended up playing Mitchell at my flex, even though he didn't put up fantasy numbers. Very intriguing performance today. Played most of the game. Did sit Sutton to play him, though, which is pretty brutal. That's
tough to watch. I think Sutton led the week in receiving yardage. That's tough to see. But, yes, very intriguing usage and injuries all around him. Should move forward as the guy.
Wolf, I'll be back in like 2 seconds. Take the next one.
Sure thing. What to make of Callaway? I'm nervous. I don't feel great about Callaway. This was a game for him to break out. I thought he was going to break out, and he didn't. And you dropped Pittman for Callaway, Rico. That is a mistake. And you could never have seen this coming against Ramsey. I'm sure if you asked me today, I would have endorsed dropping Pittman for Callaway. But, yeah, mistake. Callaway, Pittman's looking like an alpha. Callaway's looking like it's never going to be something you can depend on. So, yeah, that's tough. Sorry to hear it, Rico. Titans went on a field goal. Okay, you guys give us the details. Thank you, Tunes. I see yours as well. Angel Bucks. Would you drop Goddard for Max Williams? And not Max Williams. I'm trying to think of what other tight ends might be out there. Angel Bucks, tune in on Tuesday. I'll go through them. I mean, Tyler Conklin, but I don't think he had a big day. Like, there's not a ton of great stuff. Jack Doyle actually looked intriguing, if I remember correctly, having 5 touchdowns in RSJ legend, RSJ staple, Jack Doyle. Maybe he's the guy, given, this is a Frank Reich offense and how much they love to pepper tight ends. Callaway, Gibson, Mixon. Let's get to Truth. Oh, not solo Truth.
The full screen for Truth. It's about time.
Yes.
Callaway, Gibson, Mixon, and Corey Davis combined for 23 points. Yeah.
Tough day for the Tunes. Brutal stuff. A lot of bad performances today.
One more thing, boys, from Denny Jennings. I need 34 points from Kelsey and Mother Tucker. Thoughts? I will stay up to hear you say O'Neal win.
I think you're going to be good, man. 34 is a lot from two guys, but Kelsey, fair bet for 20 anytime he takes the floor.
Yep.
And Tucker getting you 15, not without range. So you need a pretty big Hail Mary, but like you have two pretty good guns to go get that.
I put you right around 50-50.
I would say a little less, probably 40-60, but like still a good shot.
Jimmy, I'm 3 points down PPR. I have Devontae Adams and TJ Hawkinson against my opponent, who has Mahomes, who wins.
That's a good battle. That is a 50-50 because Mahomes could. I mean, we just saw Carr put up 420 something against this bad Baltimore defense. So I don't know. But also Adams could go for 3 touchdowns and 150 against the Lions. They have no one that can run with him, and Hawkinson's a target hog. I think you're the favorite here, but man, that's a 50-50 in my mind.
William says I'm up 38.5 points. My opponent has Rodgers and Hawkinson, half PPR. Who wins?
That's tough. I mean, if Rodgers has a spine, you lose. He should destroy this Lions defense, and Hawkinson looked real good. But that's probably 55-45. That's a really, really close one.
I kind of am leaning towards William.
Yeah, right, because you don't like Rodgers, and I get it.
Well, Kyle Tunes, down by 3.5. He has Lamar, and I have Devontae Adams. Not looking good. Yeah.
That's great. That's not great. But honestly, Lamar, what if he's figured out at this point? We talked about this last time, Truth.
It's possible.
He doesn't look great. And, Adams could really have one of those. He had more 30-point days than anybody other than Josh Allen at any position last year. And if he's going to have a 30-point day this year, it's going to come against the Lions this week. So yeah. I don't think you're out of this, Tunes. Like, Lamar could have a pretty good day, and you could still win with Adams' 30-point upside. So I'm with you there.
Ayuk, Sherfield, and Sermon on my bench. It's going to be a big waiver wire week.
Yeah.
Time to
start digging.
Time to clean out the trash. Wish I'd started Patterson over Davis today. Sure.
I wish I had made that move too, Tunes. I had the option. I didn't do it.
Mahmoud was targeting Woods ahead of Kupp in the draft. I didn't know that he wouldn't be eating breakfast together with Stafford. LOL.
Right. Remember they made that call? You texted me as soon as they made it last Saturday night or Sunday night.
I did, and I meant it, and I felt like you didn't take me as seriously as I deserved at the time.
Breakfast. Breakfast was the difference. It's true.
Tunes is going 0-4 this week. Sorry.
I had one of those weeks. I ended up going 2-4 last week. I was looking like 0-6 at one point. Waller kind of changed that around for me. But, yeah, it's never a fun feeling. Good luck looking in mirrors tomorrow, too. It's not fun.
DJ Johnson up 10 with Tyson and Butker in the Pack's defense.
I'm glad to hear that because, I remember he asked us about Singletary. He told him to bench him. 60-yard touchdown to start the game. That was tough. Yeah. But glad to hear you got a 10-point lead versus Butker. You're going to need Tyson to perform. You're going to because Butker and Pack D are probably going to put up 15 to 20. So you need probably 10 from Tyson and you'll feel good. That's kind of how I look at that. I think you're in good shape.
Real quick, because this one is a little lower down, but it pertains to tonight. Someone down here is asking, would you flex Mark Andrews or Hollywood Brown tonight?
I'd go Hollywood. I don't know that I trust Mark Andrews right now. I don't. Giuseppe
says, would you drop Beasley or Myers for Patterson or Patrick? Half-point PPR.
Oh, man, that's close. I want to say both, but also that's kind of overreactionary. But Beasley is what he is.
I like all these guys better than Beasley.
I kind of want to see what Patterson does, especially if you're playing in a league where he has running back and wide receiver eligibility. Like if something happened to Davis, you got a workhorse at your wide receiver 3 position now. He's very intriguing. I wish I never dropped him.
Red Coco Pollard should be on that waiver wire list.
Is he out there? I feel like he's like 50% owned. No, if he's out there in over half the leagues, then he should be the number 1 waiver. Yeah, I didn't think he'd be out there in leagues.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope CJ gets him up there, but I'm not sure.
Tunes was picked to win by about 25 in one league. Then Henry bent me and my team over hard in the second half.
Yeah, he sure did.
Bent you over.
Nothing you could do there. I don't think he gave you anything courtesy there. He didn't take any prisoners.
That's the one we just answered. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
T.O. McGriddle, anyone want to talk about Derrick Henry getting 40 points? We do want to talk about it, and we have. He was our stud of the week.
He was the stud of the week. He earned the honors.
Stout, Alvin Kamara destroyed my fantasy weekend. I suspect you're not the only one.
The dud of the week. So we go from stud of the week comment to the dud of the week, right?
Red Coco kept Ingram instead of Cordarrelle Patterson. Regret it. Sure.
I commented to people. People asked me, you might have been the one to ask me on Twitter, Ingram or Patterson. I said very clearly, Patterson. I'm going Patterson. Sorry to hear it. I wish you had asked me and listened.
Mike Schneider, I got Mahomes and Hawkinson. I need 51 to win. You're in range. You could get it.
You're in range. Mahomes could go 35 tonight, and you just need 15 from. That's definitely within your range of outcomes.
Tune says, thanks, boys. Enjoy the game. You too.
I'd give you, by the way, Schneider, I'd say that's like a 40-60. I'd say you're the underdog. But
I agree. And DJ says, drop Beasley for Patrick.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. And I still think Patterson, maybe not over Myers, but very intriguing role. All righty, guys. Well, thank you again so much. Risers and Fallers show tomorrow. We go a little more in depth into some of those stats we talked about, where they're going to land on my season-long big board. Tuesday night, we'll go into more depth on all those waiver wire targets we talked about, and then any more that might pop up between now and then, or any we may have overlooked in the rush of getting live during an overtime game. That's why we were late today. We were like, wait, is it over? It's over? Nope. So we got a little late start here. But thank you guys for being here. It's always a pleasure to wrap up our Sunday with you guys. Enjoy the hopefully good game we got lined up here. Truth, any last words for the peeps?
Go Chiefs.
You like the Chiefs?
I'm just sucking up to Mitch Chavez.
Yeah, I do love Mitch Chavez. I can give him the Chiefs there for sure. This will also be a podcast tomorrow for those of you that prefer audio. Yeah. We'll have about 4 shows a week that end up being turned into audio formats. We'll be live 6 times. 4 of them will be podcast shows. So you guys are the best. Thank you so much for being here. I'm the Wolf.
I'm the Truth.
World full of fantasy sheep, guys. Be the Wolf. Later.